And good morning. Good morning. Hoping to catch up with Hugh Freeze, the head football coach for the Liberty Flames. I called them the Owls earlier, but the Flames.
That's Rice.
That's right. I do know that. I used to, follow Rice baseball. The Out of Bounds Show. We are live in the Bank Plus studio. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, WRKS ESPN. We are presented by Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools, 4 locations, Atlanta, Tupelo, Gluckstadt, Madison County, and downtown Jackson. Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. We want to welcome in one of the hottest football coaches in America, 7-0 at Liberty. He is Hugh Freeze on the Coors Light guest line. Coach, good morning. Congratulations, man.
Well, thank you, and good morning to you guys.
Man, all right, so Malik Willis transfers in from Auburn. You guys, everywhere you go, you get the offense going day one, which, you're a freak on offense, top 1% there. Explain to me how you install an offense and move the ball wherever you go, high school, G5, Power 5, it doesn't matter. How does that happen, Coach?
Well, we probably need a video and get on a board, and I'd show you how I start. But I really, no matter where I've been, I start trying to get an athletic quarterback, number one, that has the potential to throw the football. And then I start just trying to figure out, can he see the game? Can I do a good enough job teaching him to see the game like I see it being played on different fields? And that's really the way I teach the game to them. And I've got a great quarterback coach in Ken Austin who is so good at the fundamentals. I'm not very good at the fundamental part of his shoulder needs to be a little lower, or his stride needs to be a little narrower. I'm a more of a big picture guy, and Kent's been a great compliment to me, as was Dan Werner at Ole Miss. Dan was excellent at that also. And but man, I just start trying to teach him, here's the 3 fields, and here's the things I want you to learn about when I want you to play on certain fields. And it's worked everywhere I've been with the quarterbacks, and obviously it helps if you have good skill players and receivers that can win one-on-ones. At some point, you're going to have somebody win a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. So that comes back to players. That has really nothing to do with my schemes, but it certainly helps that you have the options, I think, in our world of offensive football. But it does take you relinquishing some of your control in post-snap situations, and you got to figure out, am I a good enough teacher to get him to understand what I'm wanting?
Hugh Freeze, 7-0 at Liberty, coming off a monster win over Virginia Tech. You're listening Out of Bounds. Coach Freeze joins us on the Coors Light guest line. Will you expand on the 3 fields?
Yeah, it's just so you have the box, which is your O-line versus whatever they're going to choose to put in the defensive box, defensive line, linebackers, possible safeties, possible corner, if it's corner fire. But and it's just a numbers deal for me is, do we have the numbers once they post-snap decide how many they're putting in the box to play on that field? Then you obviously have the field from the hash to the field side or the hash to the boundary, and those are the 3 fields that we have the option of playing on any given play. And our receivers learn the game. They're playing a game on their field in our RPO world. We're not talking just a drop back pass here. Drop back passes are a total different thing. But truthfully, the games I've called the best and felt the best about is when I don't have to call but about 5 dropbacks a game is usually when we win. If we're having to call a bunch of dropback stuff, D-line are better athletes than O-linemen, particularly in the places I've been. And it's advantageous for us to be able to throw the ball when our O-line is in run action. And so those receivers in that world are just concentrating on what is on their field, and they're adjusting their routes based upon what I've taught them, on the structure on their field only. They don't worry about the box. They don't worry about the other side of the field. They just, what do we do? What has Coach taught us to do here on this look? I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, you do. This is fast. All right, so Hugh Freeze on the Out of Bounds show, 7-0 at Liberty. They beat 2 Power 5 teams in Virginia Tech and Syracuse, and they could win out, which is pretty remarkable. Now, Hugh, walk me through this. So many of the guys that we visit with have coached under, like, Saban, Pete Carroll, Urban Meyer, Tressel, some guys that have won for a long time at big programs. That's not the path that you took. So when did you start to create this offense that moves the ball who did you try to emulate? Who would you say you took from, maybe one or two people, to create this offense that you have the ability to install and move the ball day one wherever you go?
Man, I get asked it all the time, and I'm telling you, I honestly, I just don't talk ball with many people at all. But in high school, I tried to go tempo as much as I could. And Gus was a good friend of mine and is a good friend of mine. And he was always in the tempo world. He just wasn't in this RPO world. But and so we talked tempo some when we were high school coaches. He was in Arkansas. I was in Tennessee. And so I got some tempo stuff from that. But in high school, I had things going on with the run game that were totally independent of what was going on in the box. You just couldn't really go down the field much in high school per the rules. Then you get to college, and I'm an assistant, and so I'm going to say I learned most from the opposite of what I do. And I don't know if this makes sense, but I was on Ed Orgeron's staff for 3 years, and, man, we were old school.
Yeah.
21 personnel, 22 personnel, power every way you can imagine it, counter every way you can imagine it, and great ball coaches. George DeLeon's one of the greatest O-line coaches, and he was the run game coordinator, and I was the receiver coach for a period there, and we would sit there and watch, it seemed like 1,000 clips of power. And, man, if they do this, your receiver's got a motion down in, and he's got to go dig that safety out. And man, in my mind, I'm saying, if I ever get a chance to run an offense, I'm not asking that receiver to go block that safety. We're going to lose that in my mind. I mean, we recruit receivers to go catch balls and run routes, not to block that 200-pound safety that LSU's got, screaming down in the box. And so I don't know if I'm making sense to you, but I still block him. But I block him because we run a route, not because we go physically block him.
You make his eyes go somewhere else,
Well, no, if he wants to play the run in that box, then we shouldn't be handing the ball off.
Okay.
Whereas in old school, if you want to hand it off, then the receiver's got to go block him because you don't have anybody for him. Mm-hmm. And so if he wants to get in that box, then we're not going to hand it off. We're going to throw it.
Okay, I love that. Hugh Freeze, 7-0 with Liberty on the Out of Bounds show and the Coors Light guest line, talking offense. This thing has worked everywhere from high school to Arkansas State to Ole Miss to Liberty and so on. Blake, you got a question?
Don't forget Lambeth now.
Oh, and Lambeth. Yes. You have a question for Coach?
Yeah, Coach, I know you don't get to just watch football. Obviously, you're a very busy man, but I know you keep up with the trends and what's going on. When you see teams kind of go pass heavy or run heavy week to week and they kind of manipulate their ability to play the football, what are your thoughts on that idea of balance, and especially because you run an RPO game, which somewhat can be dictated by the defense about how you read it? When you see a team like the Bills beat a Seahawks team by 41 dropbacks and only 9 designed RB carries, is that a genuine philosophy to win long term in your mind, or is there true a sense of you have to be balanced run pass to your offense?
Yeah, to me, I think we have to have at least the appearance of being balanced. I've never felt good saying, hey, we're just going to drop back and throw this. And so for me, again, the defense does dictate a large majority of the time whether it's a run or a pass for us on at least first and second down typically. Obviously, I can call off the RPOs if I want to. If we definitely want to hand this ball off, I can call off everything. But we have to have the appearance of being balanced. And so for me, the key stat for me is we would get through some games and we'd have 500 yards of offense, but people would say, well, wait, you only ran it for 100. And I never get caught up in that. I do get caught up in the key for me is what is the average per run. Mm-hmm. And if we're averaging 4 yards a run, then that's a good day. And that means we handed it off when we needed to, and we also handed off when we're supposed to based on the box count. And so for me, it's and I think that keeps you having the appearance of being balanced. Whether or not the stats say you were balanced, I really don't care. I do care about, are we averaging enough running the football when we do run it? That means we're calling the right blocking schemes and we're handing it off when we need to. So that's the way I see it.
Hugh Freeze on the Out of Bounds Show. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. They're 7-0 at Liberty, coming off a big win against Virginia Tech. So there's never any doubt in your mind that you're going to move the football, right? Regardless of personnel? I mean, because you've moved it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really disappointed. There has been days where I felt like, man, this guy's got my number and I just have nothing for him. But it's a smaller percentage of the time. You know, Gary Patterson kicked my tail one year, and I learned a lot from that game. LSU has.
All right, what was your major that's one? I mean, you've had a tremendous amount of success. What was your major takeaway from that game? Like, why did Patterson actually slow you down?
Well, number one, his kids had an edge that year. I don't know if you remember, they didn't get in the what was it then? The New Year's Six. I mean the playoffs. They didn't get in the playoffs, and they felt they deserved it, and they came in there with an edge. And I didn't prepare our kids real well. We should have stayed out of the. We stayed in downtown Atlanta. It was just a distraction after another. But also give him credit, man. He had 4 weeks to plan, and he had us nailed. And he had us pegged with our tight ends alignment, our running backs alignment, and he just did a heck of a job. And then, you know, that one sticks out in my mind. And then LSU has always been able to give you problems give me problems because they can just say, you know what, mine are better than yours at DB and receiver, and we're going to make you throw your RPO game, and we think we can win our one-on-ones. And, you know, that was always a scary feeling. And, I mean, I believe that I have answers to whatever the defense is doing, and typically that has resulted in us scoring a few points. But there are times where, man, it ain't working today.
Right. Well, did you feel confident going into Virginia? I mean, Virginia Tech on paper has more talent than you. That has never.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw their number of 4 and 5 stars, and we don't have any of those. I think we're 127th in recruiting in the last. Of course, we've only been in FBS for 2 years now, but and they're one of the top 25 programs over the last 2 decades. You have to say, arguably, and certainly. Here's what I thought going into the game, and I told everybody this. I tell our players this. I'm probably more transparent than most now, and it's just the way I want to live my life. And I told them, listen, here's the truth. We're going to move the ball on them. Now, we can't turn it over and all of that, but we're going to move the ball on them. We're going to score some points, and I'm going to slow the game down, believe it or not. I'm going to slow it down, and I'm going to go for it on 4th down, and we're going to score some points. Now, I don't think we can stop them. Nobody has. They were 4th in the country in offense, and I said I don't think we can stop them, but I think we're going to score some points. Now, what that equated to, I had no clue, but my whole goal was get it to the 4th quarter, a 1-score game at least, one way or the other, and have a chance to win it.
Hugh Freeze on the Out of Bounds Show. Do you have 2 or 3 more minutes? I know you're in a coaches meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I've got. I start my media here in about 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. I don't know if you saw the article on theathletic.com because you're coaching and practicing all week and all that, but Nick Saban made a comment a couple of weeks ago on why he hired Lane Kiffin and then Sark to go from ground and pound to opening it up and spreading it out and getting vertical and all the things that y'all do. And he said, well, it's because of Hugh Freeze. If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
Did you see any of that, or did you hear about any of that?
I didn't. Yeah. Obviously, I heard about it. My daughter Reagan, who is a football junkie, she keeps me updated on too much on stuff like that, and she's on my accounts a lot of the times, and then my agent also told me that, and I called Nick, and he's a good friend, and I said, man, you were kind to say that, and I think we were, again, I'm never going to say we were the first to do something because I'm certain we weren't, but I do believe we were one of the first in that conference to kind of combine tempo and this RPO world.
Yes.
I could be wrong on that too. I don't know, but
hey, walk me through this, Coach. So I'll put you in a all right, so that everybody, our listeners, will know what's going on. Walk me through a play. Bo Wallace at quarterback, Jalen Walton as his running back, Treadwell out. You've got Evan Ingram in a flex. Maybe you got Core or Adebayo somewhere else. Yeah, I know.
Have those again.
Well, you probably are in a year or two. But walk me through what the play is. A cool play where you're going to do something, and what you've told Bo and everything else, so that our listeners can get an idea.
All right, we'll call Boa. All right, so that tells everybody everything. That's what people. I think you got to be simple, and most people, they look at me like I've got 3 eyes when I say that's it. That there's nothing else to it. That's the call. And I've had NFL guys come back and meet with me and say, man, you got to talk to us on, because an NFL play is flip right, YMO, yak, 32 power, alert, Z seam, X dig, Y drag. And I call that BOA. And so I just think, I coached in Mississippi for a large part of my life, and man, we got to make it simple. And these kids to play fast, so that's a typical play call, and it tells everybody everything, the formation, tells the line what they're doing, and so the Bo Wallace has got Treadwell out to the single side, let's say, and he's got Evan Ingram and Dante Moncrief and Quincy Adebayo out to the wide side of the field, and he gets to decide. So that's him and Jalen Walton in the backfield with 5 offensive linemen that can block 5 people. So it's pretty simple. If they give us the 5-man box, Jalen, it's your call. You're getting the ball. If they give us a 6-man box, then we've got to decide, all right, where did that rotation come from, which leads me to which field I go to. Do I go to Treadwell, or do I go to the 3-man surface with Evan Ingram and Dante Moncrief and DK Metcalf or somebody?
Okay. Unbelievable. Blake, we've got two more minutes here with Coach Freeze.
So I know that you've seen, Coach, what Art Briles' offense was at Baylor, and then the delineations of that, especially with his son Kendall Briles now at Arkansas, and then his son-in-law Jeff Lebby now at Ole Miss. Can you speak to a little bit of the differences in what your offense does as a true RPO and what that kind of Baylor variation spread offense is doing now that it's kind of really pushing its way into the SEC?
Yeah, there's not a lot of differences, probably. I haven't studied a lot of that, but everybody's doing some semblance of it today. It's very few people that this is not a part of their game. There's a large percentage of people that are now throwing the ball off of run action, and so I would assume that the Baylor tree and Coach Libby and the rest of those guys, and I know Kendall's into that world too. So I don't know that they teach it the same because I haven't talked ball with them, and I don't know if they give the freedoms that I do with your quarterback play, or if they're controlling it. But it's all in the same family for sure.
We'll leave it there. Coach Hugh Freeze on the Out of Bounds show. Liberty is 7-0, coming off a huge win over Virginia Tech, a wild finish on man, that was a lot of fun to watch. Great game, 38-35. And this Malik Willis, wow, he can play for Freeze in the offense. And so they're 7-0, and we'll see what shakes out here over the next 4 to 5 to 6 weeks for Coach Freeze. Hey, Coach, thanks so much for giving us so much time today. We appreciate it. Congratulations on the season.
Thank you, guys. Hope all is well down there.
Take care. Hugh Freeze on the Coors Light guest line. They beat Virginia Tech 38-35. And Liberty scored 17 points in the fourth quarter, Blake.
Incredible.
Malik Willis, 217 yards, 3 TDs through the air.
Is that good?
108 and 1 touchdown on the ground. So, I mean, he's a big-time playmaker. And Coach Freeze mentioned earlier, he said, I got to have a guy who's dynamic and who can run it and who I believe can pass it, which I think Freeze just gets them up and running as far as and he understands, I think, what he does well. And then he hires some maybe a little bit more technician as his QB coach in Dan Warner and Ken Austin, who played at Ole Miss and coached at Ole Miss and now is Hugh Freeze's, I guess, co-OC / QB coach. And Kent's a super guy, super cerebral, too.
You got to have the philosophy part and the execution part.
That's right.
Freeze is the philosophy, Kent's the execution. And that's what it takes. I also like how Freeze immediately mentioned OVOA, like efficiency. So it's not how many times you run it, it's how well you run it.
And it's the appearance.
Yeah, it's not how many times you – and so Kiffin has been the opposite. It's not how many times you throw it, it's how well you throw it.
Right.
They're running the ball the second most times in the SEC, but they look like a passing team because they're efficient how they pass. Freeze is the opposite. They run the ball well, but it's just efficient runs. It's not that they are dedicated to running the ball.
And he's still showing looks, the appearance of balance.
And when your QB is hitting 100 yards on the ground per game, which is what he's averaging – I mean, Malik Willis is probably, one of those like best quarterbacks in G5, or will be,
sure,
talent-wise. And so he's got an upper hand with that setup, but man.
But a lot of that's because of Freeze.
How he sets him up, yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Good interview with Hugh Freeze. If you missed any of it, you can find it a little bit later on the podcast. Apple Podcast. Search the Out of Bounds Show. We would love for you to subscribe. You'd be awesome. We would appreciate it. We'll love you even more. Apple Podcast, search the Out of Bounds Show, and please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Out of Bounds Sports. Hey, the show is brought to you by Juniker Jewelry Shop, Juniker Jewelry Store on Highland Colony. Engagement rings, wedding rings, that's where you want to go, along with earrings, bracelets, and everything else. Juniker Jewelry Store. Highland Colony in Madison. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Brad Edwards at 9:30.